me just give you a formal introduction and then we can start. Okay. The true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but the imagination. Good afternoon and Jai Hind to our esteemed guest speaker, Dr. Archana Sharma. Ma'am is currently working as an associate professor in Amity Business School, Lucknow. She has an experience of 22 years in academics. She completed a doctorate from University of Lucknow and her area of expertise is human resource management. She has published many articles in the domain of stress management of employees, job performance evaluation, and HR practices. Ma'am will be taking a session on formative and outcome-based assessment. So I take the honor to welcome you, ma'am, amidst us. And now I request Assistant Administrator, Sunbeam Women's College, Varuna, Dr. Shalini Singh, to extend her welcome note.
Thank you so much, Nilanjana. I also join hands with Nilanjana ma'am in welcoming Dr. Archana Sharma amongst us. Thank you so much, ma'am, for accepting our invitation, for being one of the speaker of this FDP. Hope the topic which you are going to take will be very beneficial for all the participants who are there. And this topic is something, ma'am, which is going to affect all of us, because when it comes to teaching, online teaching, people are trained. But when it comes to assessment, still we need training for them. So looking for a wonderful session, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you so much. And I would like to thank the organizers of this FDP for inviting me and considering me as one of your guests. So thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Shalini and Nilanjana both for saying such wonderful words. So I would like to share my PPT and then we can start. So just one small confirmation that my PPT is visible to everybody.
Ma'am, right? Yeah, we can see your screen. Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So, all right. So do I need to put it on a slideshow mode or this is okay? So, because I need to see you people also. I don't want to.
Ma'am, full screen. You need to do it full screen.
Okay. So how do I do that? Let me just check.
Ma'am, from slideshow, you just need to click
slideshow.
Just
go to the slideshow and you'll have the
so
option.
The slideshow is not.
It is next to animation, ma'am. Next to animation, you see.
Next to.
In mid of review and animation, you can see slideshow.
Okay, I have.
Ma'am, just
above the file home in third line. Yeah.
And file.
In file, I will have to go.
File next to
slideshow.
Yes, next.
Move
again,
right, move right.
Insert,
move
design, transition, animation, and then it is slideshow.
Okay, so I'm not able to see that actually because there is a. Let me check. So I'm going randomly now. There is one bar coming. There's one bar coming on my screen.
Oh, just below. Just a second.
Control F5 will do the slideshow, I think.
The second one.
No.
Ma'am, just below at the lower side of the screen, you can see that there are 4 images. Just below on the left side of the minus sign, there is a option of slideshow.
Ma'am, we can see your cursor. You just move left side. Left side.
Okay, is it okay now?
Yeah.
Ma'am, shall I share it for you? Will it be easy for you?
All right, you do that.
Okay, I'll be sharing it.
So I unshare.
I'll just stop sharing. Ma'am, is it visible to you?
Yes, it is now, Nilanjana.
Okay.
Just ask Dr. Archana Sharma whether she is comfortable.
Yes. I am okay with this. All right. Thank you so much, Nilanjana. So very good afternoon to all the participants out here. And the session that I will be actually interacting with you and sharing some of my own learnings is formative and outcome-based assessment. Because here at Amity, since last 4 to 5 years, we have been focusing only on the outcome-based assessment. And today we see that how important outcome-based assessment is. So whatever little learning I have had, I would like to share that with you. So a simple question, if you people can unmute anyone and just share with me that, has it been any time in your life that you have felt that probably you wanted to do something else and you have ended up doing something else? Or along with whatever you are doing, whatever education that you are holding, you would also like to add some more skills to it. And because of the constraints of the educational system, you couldn't do that. So anybody who feels this, and you can share whatever you felt.
I would request everyone to kindly put your answers in the chat box, or you can just raise your hand so that I can unmute you.
So, all right, so did we have any answers?
Ma'am, yet we do not have.
Okay.
We can just wait for 2-3 minutes. Till then, you can carry on. Once I get the answer, I'll let you know.
So, I would like to share my experience with you. That is, when I was studying, I always felt that I had more creative side to me than actually doing BA, MA, and so on. And but because the system was like this, the demand of the parents is like that you have to complete certain level of education, and then only you can do whatever you wanted to pursue. And by that time, things become a little late. My experience as a teacher was that when we were having an interview for a BBA program, one of the students who we interviewed was a student who was a very, very dull, and a person who had come to give an interview was, we would have rejected him. And he was just answering questions which we were just asking him. There was no motivation. There never seemed to be any spark. And in all the business related programs, we like to see sparks in students. I think it is a necessity for each program or each professional course that we're doing. But when I didn't find the students responding to me in a manner I expected him to do, there was just one simple statement that I asked him is, what is your interest area? And the moment I asked him, he said, ma'am, you may not be interested to know. I said, no, never mind. Tell me what is your interest area. And so we can understand you better. We are not here to reject you or accept you. We are more or less to help you in finding out the right course of the programs or right courses for you, help you, counsel you as well. So he then started talking about automobiles and the engines and the various models that are there in the market, and the switching over from two-wheelers to four-wheelers with the accessories and the use of these accessories. Now, since this was something not very, very familiar to me, the spark in his eyes and the brightness in his face, it made us understand that the kind of passion this student had with this topic. So that, of course, a very, very genuine answer would be from our side was, why didn't you take up stream? Why don't you go for engineering? So he said, no, I'm not interested in engineering. Now, this is where we didn't know what to answer. He had come for a business program, BBA course. He was interested, his passion was lying somewhere else. And how could we meet out both the things so that he remains motivated in the course that he has joined, as well as he's able to follow his passion? Because at the end of this program, we didn't want the student to know that he didn't learn or to say that he didn't learn anything. So these were the dilemmas that were there. Even when I was studying, I must have given, a medical examination, but I was not, considered good enough to pass those exams. And then I had to change my course. But till date, if I see myself, I can assess that my interest in medical equipment, line of treatment, medicine is so high, but somehow I never got the opportunity, or maybe I didn't try harder to get into that medical line. So this is the constraint in our system, in our education system. When we talk to our friends and children of our friends, it is something very surprising to find out that the student is doing a medical course, but along with that, he is into a different set of things. How to do farming. He is into, he's into things like painting, decoration, and that is embedded in their course itself. It doesn't disturb their line of thinking. But our parents or never let us, concentrate on so many things. The focus was more to keep us focused on one aspect, and maybe the same we have transmitted to our children. There are parents, when my sons were growing up, there were parents who would say, oh, my son got 90%. And I would be so surprised. Is 90% so less? Achieving 90% was something, which we never dreamt of. And if a child is getting 90% and the parent is unhappy, I could never understand. So the kind of outcome assessment and the formative systems that have come up with the new education policy will be those elements which will actually base our teachings towards a lifelong learning for a student, and that is where we are going to get the achievements. Can you change the slide, please, Nilanjana? All right. Now, if we are looking into the educational objectives of any programs, may it be BBA, BCom, MBA, whatever, the entire objective or the focus would be to see how the students will develop, to monitor the progress of the students, to consider things like how the students can improve. So when the student is coming in the first year, what is the content that he has to be developed in him? And when he passes and goes to the second year, so what improvement has happened? Improvement in terms of the content that he has developed, the knowledge that he has gained, the skills. Of course, very, very important element is the attitudes that he has developed, as well as his ability to communicate, his ability to work in a team, the kind of values that he has created or he's carrying. And through the programs, what are the value systems that we have imbibed in him? So when the objective as a whole would be to see whether all these things, knowledge, understanding, skills, attitude, and values, once the student passes out, can he demonstrate these things? And how will we check this? So, because we are limited only to the end-term examinations, every year or every semester we have these examinations, and the student passes that examination with certain grades. So is that grade sufficient to sustain for a long period of time? Because I think most of you are teachers. So when you go in the class and you want the student to stand up and speak about something which is already learned in the first semester, there are just a handful of students who can talk and who can tell or who can understand the concept and tell you about those concepts. At times you feel frustrated that you have to go back to the initial level and explain even those aspects. Otherwise, you cannot carry forward with whatever you had planned for that particular class. So that kind of relatedness is lacking in students wherever we are going. Let's forget about the cream ones. The response that maximum of students, let's say 80% of the students in the class, when such question is being asked, that this paper was taught to you in the previous semester, what can you tell us? What has been your learning about it? Should be at least 80% of the students should raise the hand and give an answer, which makes my job easy as a faculty and gives me an understanding that somewhere the teaching has been relevant and the student has imbibed it, inbuilt in it, when he responds in this manner. So educational objectives, this is how we carry on. This is how we aim for each program. Can you please change the slide? All right. Now, the major problems of the higher education system in India was these. The system was completely fragmented. Fragmented in the sense that there were a number of subjects that the student was supposed to do, streams, subjects, maths, English, Hindi. These subjects But the approach was not on a total holistic development. And the new education policy, which we call as Education 4.0, has looked into in these aspects. Even the Honorable Prime Minister has also, emphasized on this aspect, that why do we need to have a watertight compartment? Why can't we let the student flow from one course to the other, from one program to the other? Low emphasis on development of cognitive skills and learning outcomes. I've just given you the example. The students start studying about their exams or learning for their exams only maybe a week before their exam. There'll be hardly one or two students who have been studying throughout the semester. It's said that, okay, just a week before they start this, they start their studies, they start getting their documents and their class notes and the books. And nowadays they don't need books also. They go to the googlebaba.com, and that's where they get all the information. And my student actually analyze the current and apply it in the future. Those were things that were lacking in the old system. Then we had the rigid separation of disciplines, which I've already talked about, with early specialization, streaming into narrow areas. We have very, very narrow areas. And once the student gets into that area, it's very difficult for him to come out. So he continues in that narrow, too narrow, and makes it more narrow. Okay. And in the previous slide, something that I wanted you to lay emphasis on was a low emphasis on research. Students do research only in terms of summer internships or the projects that we have given. Their entire focus is not to have a research inquisitiveness. They don't, maybe except a science student or somebody who's in that particular stream. In management streams, very few students, they come up with this research ability that they want to find out, or they want to explore into certain concepts which are being developed, and to find out whether those concepts are actually applicable in the industrial scenario or not. And lack of competition is also there. The kind of what you say, appreciations that you get from the peers is also not there. Peers joining together to do a project is also very low. And even with teachers, now it is the requirement for all our appraisal systems that we need to have increased researchability. We need to go for research fundings and so on. So how many of us are actually, into research fundings? Of course, research papers we are writing because that is our element of sustainability. But research funding, again, is an area which is going to not only give an advantage to the student, but to the institution as well. And therefore, you must be seeing number of the institutions, specifically in Amity. We have a lot of emphasis on the research papers and research projects that the faculty is undertaking. And the tremendous learning that happens with the research fundings or the projects that we do. So if as faculty, I can learn when I am doing a research project, then you can imagine that hands-on is something which is most applicable or most liked by the students. Most of the students come up and say, okay, there is no relationship between theory and the practice. Whatever we learned in our books, in our classes, is not being applied in the organizations that they have joined. So why is this gap happening? This was because there were certain things which were missing. The gaps were there. And the other thing is the suboptimal governance and leadership of the higher education system. Now, culture of excellence is now creeping in. Earlier, our aim was to complete the syllabus, go inside the class, complete the number of classes, take the number of hours of sessions that you were supposed to do. But the focus was to create an excellence was lost somewhere. which was in the earlier education systems, in the Gurukul Academy and the kind of systems that we had in our Indian society, the focus was more on developing leadership. The focus was more on creating excellence. Now that got lost somewhere. So now and this was seen in the older education system. Older means like previously what we were doing. And though we had center of excellence, but not much of work was happening. So excellence is something that will be a focus of the outcome-based education system. And then we have the ineffective regulatory bodies. There are very few regulatory bodies, and they are not, operational to the extent that they should have been. So the new education system has brought up number of such governance bodies which will be operating and which will be assessing the entire education system in terms of the outcome-based education, which will be the major focus. Can you please change the slide, please? And one of the last point is there was suddenly flood of all institutions opening. Every university was giving affiliations to universities, and when so many institutions and colleges were opening, it was very, very difficult even to monitor them and to check whether all of them were following the guidelines. So again, that was a problem. So there will be certain gaps, and there will be, NAAC accreditations will become something for us, all the institutions, which have to be, it has to be applied to every institution. Students will be taking admissions only when they see these accreditations there, number of accreditations. So it will become, this accreditations will become a focus of all universities, all higher education colleges. Now let us see what is the new policy talking about before I actually come into the outcome-based education. Now these are the 6 elements that I have brought here together, which is going to give us a focus, a vision for the future. And this will be that when we are setting up some outcomes, when we are setting up certain program or educational objectives, what we need to focus is thoughtful, well-rounded, and creative individuals. So whenever we are teaching and we are assessing, these things have to be kept into mind, that would my student be, or would my program, my course will develop the creative elements in students or not. Second is enable individuals to study one or more specialized area of interest at a deep level. The thing that I was discussing in the initial level is now visible here. So the interest areas, most of our students who are very good courses, but even better when they're taking up courses on photography. And next year, the Idiots movie can be very well applied here. How you need to encourage the students to move into the passion areas, develop a character and constitutional, intellectual, scientific, temperament, and the spirit of service. These are again a focus of the new education policy. Intellectual properties, intellectual abilities, more patenting, ensuring that the student creates more will be the part of their survival when they will be or will be a part of their excellence. So creativity will only happen when they have that kind of relevant understanding about, and they have the relevant skills to use it when they are into this in this creating mode. And then they also understand that the kind of intellectual element that they have developed, that needs to be patented because there are copyright issues. So the understanding, the whole understanding about situations, current environment, what needs to be done, what does not be done, is something that has to be passed on to the student. capabilities, of course, across a range of disciplines, professional, technical. Today, the entire focus is professional development. And professional development would mean the emphasis, vocational studies. We have been, hearing about this, and we have been experiencing time period for which the student has been offered an apprenticeship. And Nilanjana, I have lost my presentation. And the focus will be also to push.
I'm sorry, I got disconnected due to network issues. Just a second now.
Never mind. Can we have the previous slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Previous one. Okay. So this one, thank you. So, because hands-on learning is something that is very, very important. When you give your students a project, when he goes out, when he moves out, when he goes to an industry or wherever, and the kind of learning he picks up, that learning is tremendous. You may have heard about, certain simulation exercises, which we do with our students. We give them a scenario. There is an activity that we conduct with students as called a business talk activity, where we first make the student visit a particular industry, and they collect all sorts of information, and then they come back, and in a group they are supposed to produce a similar kind of a company or a firm, or they can have come up with some new idea or work only on a segment of that particular business. So from getting all the funds, the sources of funds, getting all the clearances, compliances, managing the financing, managing the marketing activity, managing the production, as well as having the HR activities. When they work on this, they're very hassled when this time period, when this work is given to them, they are very hassled. They are seen running from here to there, and going to the various faculties and collecting information. But once they finish off with this activity, the learning that they come up and tell us is that the learning has been tremendous. They have learned, they know how marketing activity, promotional activity, but they have actually not experienced. So the simulation, hands-on, is something which is going to be more relevant in emphasizing on the lifelong learning. So, and the next element is public engagement. How are my students, developing those values? Are we engaging our students with the community? Are they involved and understand and able to understand their role as a stakeholder, what they are giving to the community, how they can help people around them to develop and to grow with them? So that kind of public engagement, constructive approach, involving the students in giving them social projects, maybe the institution is going to adopt a village, and the students are involved in developing the entire village, and the wonderful things that these students do, because they're so creative. They can come up with new things, and they're so hands-on with technology, which may be at times a limitation for us, but they are exposed to it. And if you keep them engaged, completely engaged with the kind of interest and the passion that they have, the results are going to be tremendous. And then we have prepared students for meaningful and satisfying lives. Whatever is the life that he chooses to, the roles that he would like to pick up. Yes, initial, there may be, certain hurdles when he's entering into the industry, if he's picking up a job, but he will slowly pick up the line of the kind of jobs that he really prefers, the kind of the job which he feels that is closer to him. So, his understanding about how his life is going to be more meaningful, his contribution towards the systems in which he is working, and of course, definitely his contribution towards the institutions and the universities to which it has been attached, is something which we call as outcome based. This is what we are looking for. It's not going to come to us immediately. When we have an end-term examination, we get the grades. So A grade, A plus grade, A minus, B grades, or we get percentages. And then we can, have a statistical analysis and say, okay, these many students were stood first, or what they got 80% and above marks, these got 60% and above marks, and so on. But are these marks so very important for the lifelong sustenance of a particular student? That's a question. Many a time students have come up to me and said, those average students who may be 65, 75% holders. And when I see them after 10 years, they are doing so well in their life. They have actually explored everything. They did have certain requirements that they met for their particular program that they were doing, but the learnings were more in terms of the takeaways, what they were taking away from that particular program, which helped them to grow in the industry. So that's where the focus would be of outcome based. Can we change the slide, please? So in Crux, you can see that the new education policy is going to focus on professional education, lifelong learnings, online and digital education, which is creeped in. Students are so much exposed, and whatever we are teaching in the class is something which is already learned, because he's exposed to so much of he is exposed to the mobile phones, he's exposed to technology, he's exposed to internet, YouTube, social media, and he is taking up opportunities. He is getting these opportunities online. So online learning makes him more comfortable because he does it at his own pace. And when he comes to the institution, he is time bound. These 4 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours. He used to sit in a class and take the sessions. And in online he will do it whenever he likes, whenever he wants. So this online digital education which is coming up has to be utilized by us in such a manner that we are able to improve the performance of the students. For life skills is something very important. Another aspect that I would like to focus before we change the slide is multi-level exit and entry. This was not there. If a student was not able to complete a particular course or the program, maybe reasons can be n number of reasons, maybe of health, maybe there is a family issue, maybe finances, could be anything. When he comes back after 2 years, 3 years, can he pick up from where he left? Does our system allow that? Perhaps no. It doesn't. Now this system, where we are going to create academic bank credits, this has been introduced into the new education policy. Now this is where the challenge is happening, that this new system where the focus would be on professional and vocational education, on lifelong learning, where the students are coming and going at their own will because they left you. Of course, there will be certain regulations to that. But after 2 years of BBA, they left and they joined some other course. And then after 2 years, they come back to do their final BBA. So things would have changed. So there'll be challenge for us as a faculty. Can you change the slide, please? Now, just the small going back, there have been a number of recommendations by the Radhakrishnan Mission and the Education Mission, 1948-49, where they said if anything has to change in the education system, it has to be the examination pattern. And this Education Commission also came up with their suggestions on reforms, that examination reforms are very crucial to the progress of the students and has to go hand in hand with improvement in teaching. So this is where they're collaborating the two things. In education, examination reforms, the kind of systems that we were having, and we need to understand here why this was happening. The dominance of the end term examination or end year examination has been so much that even the student as well as the faculty has been based on it. Our entire focus is more or less, on creating the examinations, and the student, also keeps waiting for that particular date. That's why he starts studying only a week or 10 days before the examination. so that he doesn't forget. Remembering is something that, that has to be developed, that has to be skilled into the students. So because the examination pattern is so much that the continuous learning is not happening. So we need to change our system. Another thing that I would like to say is that in Hindi, we call examination as pariksha. Now, pariksha में pari का मतलब होता है comprehensive. Pari means comprehensive and iksha means observe. Now, if you put these two words, somewhere we have lost it. Comprehensive observation. Are we observing that the student has understood the content, the knowledge and the skill, and what he's carrying with him is not just there in grades, but it comes out, it gets demonstrated in whatever he is doing in his life, whether he is an entrepreneur or is going to be a businessman, or he is simply, going for higher education, or he wants to be a researcher. That is what we are going to focus on. So comprehensive observation is the focus of outcome-based education. Can you please change the slide? All right. Of course, these are the certain historical development where, again, the focus on evaluation was, emphasized in 1968, in 1986. Again, the focus of examination was more on, not only on memorizing, but on actually applying. So memorizing had to go away, applying had to come in. There was introduction of continuous and comprehensive evaluation that I have just talked about. And, not only measuring the grades, not only just identifying 80%, 60% and all. This had to go, and the system had to come in where we will be assessing the student not on the grades, but what he has demonstrated in terms of his skills, what he's achieved in his life. And therefore, today's new education policy will be, emphasizing only on transformation of assessment for optimizing learning and development of students. So this is where we pick up from here, the entire focus for this reforms in examination would be on assessment, and what kind of assessments, where learning and teaching learning for both the teacher as well as student is a continuous process. Kindly please change the slide. So this is where the progression has taken place. Outcome-based education will be actually focusing on students. So it's a student-centric approach. And this student-centric approach, or the process of assessment, or the learning, rather not assessment, but learning, I should say, will improve only and when there is an active participation of both the teacher as well as the student. And the changes that have come over is examination has changed into evaluation, and from evaluation, we have moved into assessment. So assessment, how we are going to assess. The examination only focuses on grades, on the percentage of marks that the student has he been able to get a degree for the program that he has done. If we say 60% is the passing mark for a particular program, then was he able to get that 60%? So that the examination focus was there. But evaluation, again, had a wider focus, not only examination, but there was introduction of continuous evaluation system, maybe in the form of quizzes that we gave, maybe in the form of presentations or home assignments, whatever was introduced in the evaluation phase. And assessment is throughout. It starts from the time the student enters, even before he's entered the campus, the assessment parameters begin. When he's in the first year, you are assessing. When he's in the second, third, and when he leaves the campus, then also you are assessing. And once he is an alumni also, you are assessing. Because assessment is for improvement purpose. It's the only thing that we need to understand. If you are assessing, it's only for improvement. So here I've written a small line is retention is significantly higher when learning involves discussions, practice by doing, and teaching others. When your students are involved, and there's a case discussion happening, and one student takes up the role of a teacher and tries to explain a concept, this is what we are looking for. Is the group activities where everybody is, helping the other to grow and learn. Can you change the slide, please? All right. Now, this is the UGC mandate, the new UGC mandate, which has, come up with these elements. And, see, the first, I'll start from my right side, is learning outcome-based curriculum framework. Second, they are talking about student induction program, that is the Diksha Aram. Then they are focusing on Jeevan Kaushal, that is the life skills, which we have already seen in the previous slide. Then the important red segment is where we will be focusing, that is the evaluation reforms. What are the reforms and what are the assessment parameters that we need to introduce? Then we have the eco-friendly and sustainability, that is the SATAT. Then we have the faculty, of course, induction programs, that is Guru Dakshata. Is the faculty having all the abilities? Does he have those skill sets to pass on? If not, the faculty development programs are arranged and organized so that the faculty also has those abilities. Say, for example, I have focused so much on research projects. Now, writing a research project is not everybody's job. I got 3 of my research projects got rejected. And on the 4th attempt, I got 1 project. And that too, when we did it in a group. And in the 5th attempt, I got a call from the ICSSR for making a presentation on that project. So I feel that this is my achievement. Somewhere I have proved when I didn't know how to get all these things together, what are the things to be emphasized. So again, here the university, the institutions help the faculty to grow and give them the right skills which are required. Now, quality research by faculty, that is CARE and STRIDE, and then that's why you hear this UGC CARE journals and so on. Mentoring of non-accredited institutions. This is Paramarsh, those institutions, we are not accredited. We help them to develop the standards, so that the objective of the country or the education policy is being met. Then we have the human values and professional ethics, that is Mule Prava. What are the ethics and values that we are ingrained into our students? And then we have the social industry connect, that is industry 4.0 and education 4.0. What is the requirement of the industry? Are we giving our education as per what the industry wants? And that is Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. So these are the UGC mandates. And with these UGC mandates, the entire focus of the educational institutions would be on all these elements. Even the universities, the regulatory bodies will be looking into these documents. If NAC accreditation is being sought, that NAC is also going to focus on this. What is the student support systems that we have? Thank you. Can you please change the slide? So now we move on to these evaluation. What is, of course, everybody knows is a systematic process of collecting evidence about students, their progress, how have they achieved, whether they are able to apply, whether the learning is good enough for them to create something new. So cognitive thinking, problem solving abilities, have that been developed? Can they come back? Can have it developed the kind of their ability to move from failures to success, non-cognitive areas of learning on the basis of which judgments are formed and decisions are made. So evaluation is the entire broader concept. We're going to check the students on whether we can demonstrate these aspects. Slide, please. Next slide. All right. Now, these are the reforms in the examination, in the evaluation, and the assessments that have been introduced in the new education policy. And instead of being quantitative, that was the measures, the percentage that the student was getting, the focus is more moved towards qualitative assessments. So when we are designing our assessments, we need to understand we are not only aiming कि 90% आ जाए, कि 95% आ जाए, कि मेरा सारा बच्चा पास हो जाए. What is important is what is the quality of learning that has happened. And this quality will happen only when we use LOBE, that is learning outcome based education. And the framework talks about, exit outcomes. Exit outcomes is when the student has finished his programs, when he is not under any pressure that he's going to, disagree with the faculty, or the faculty is going to get angry, or his internal assessments will be, affected. When he's leaving the campus, what is the feedback that he gets? Now, that feedback is important for me as a faculty and my institution as an educational institution, that what are the reforms that we bring in? What are the changes that we need to introduce to incorporate that whatever we are teaching remains relevant to the stakeholders? Now, the stakeholders are students, stakeholders are parents, stakeholders are industry counterparts, stakeholders are our academic partners, stakeholders can be our alumni, they can be n number of stakeholders. And so we are taking these, feedbacks from those who have left the campus. When we're designing the curriculums, are we involving these stakeholders in designing the program or our assessment patterns? Second, they're talking about is redefine performance and standards to provide regular reports on actual student learning levels in all key outcome areas. So here, I would rather focus on student learning levels. What was the level of learning that I had intended before the start of the program? And what is the student's learning level that I have achieved? Intended, so therefore, intended student learning, that by doing this particular course, the student will be able to do this. Now, able to do this is designed by us, because we intended that by teaching him a course in finance, by teaching him in a course in business tax, or teaching him in a course in human resource, operations, whichever, this is the skill that I would like that the student should demonstrate. And those demonstrations become our key outcome areas. That's how we move on from exit outcomes to defining the outcomes into our courses, into our programs, into our students. And then the third step is redesign a future-focused curriculum with a problem and issue-based content focus and continuous development of students. Last line is most important. Curriculum has to be future-oriented. Because if you keep on carrying, पुराने ज़माने में ये होता था कि बहुत मजाक उड़ाया जाता था कि ये फैकल्टी आई हैं और इनके बाबा आदम के ज़माने के इनके notes हैं. And the faculty would carry those notes because there was no way in which the faculty could store those notes in some kind of PPTs or some kind of technology. He would carry those notes and it would become a fact of joke for the students. Now, even if we are carrying the old notes, we need to see that old remains valuable, and with the old is the current application. The principles will not change, but application of principles may change in current scenario. That's what I'm saying. That what is the takeaway? Can the student apply that learning in his day-to-day working? And can I observe a continuous development in his abilities to perform maybe his studies or to give presentations? You may have observed that there were certain students who were very shy to make presentations, that they would shy off, they would not come in front of you because of the fear that you would give them a presentation. But purposefully, some of us or most of us, we identify these students and we give them this presentation. Maybe at that point of time, our orientation is not we want to develop the student, but but unconsciously we are doing it. And maybe after one attempt or two attempts, the students, it becomes very fluent. He gets away from his fear cycle of making presentations. Audience cycle, being in front of people is something that is not easy for all of us. So continuous development is what we need to see in students. Can you change the slide, please? All right. And then, of course, high engagement, high activity. Keep the students involved. How? Monologue will not do. So how do we make them participate? You've just had a blending learning session. Now, in that blending learning session, the purpose is give them material that they come and have a basic understanding of the topic that is going to be discussed in the class. And when they come inside the class for a one-to-one discussion, that is where we will be picking up and helping them to apply that particular learning into situations. Because this kind of opportunity was less. The technology was evolving slowly, and most of us were even, very not very familiar with this kind of technology. Nowadays, because of this pandemic, let's bless the pandemic in some way or the other, we have all learned to come online and use all the online aspects or the technology that is there in our teaching. And we have shown to the students that it is not only you who is technology friendly, but we are also technology friendly. So how do we engage them? This is again a focus of our assessment. Are we going to give them home assignments? Are we going to give them a case study so that they analyze? And we move away from giving them the basic learning. Basic learning is there in the form of online aspect. We created tutorials, we've given them enough reading material. Now is the time to actually guide them whether they are applying things in the right manner or not. So assessment needs to see this aspect. Emphasis has also to be on the multi-modality active learning by individuals and learning teams. Now this multi-modality is the various options that we are using. The flipped classrooms, showing YouTubes in the classrooms, and maybe the kind of the Mentimeter, when you're chatting with the student on online, you are asking them to give their responses. So there are a number of such learning modes which can be utilized very effectively, and the student will feel engaged. Not just that the online maybe teacher बोल रहा है और student सुन रहा है, student camera भी नहीं on करता है. That is a problem. But if we engage them in this kind of an aspect, with exploring into what are the various things that are available in terms of technology, we can achieve this aspect. Of course, real world scenarios, real world settings have to be created in the class. Only then they start thinking. Only then they start applying what they have learned. Then promote use of focused learning and resource centers with expanded access to facilities, but even then learn. When we are making the session plans also, we are focusing ourselves on the kind of learnings that we are going to intend in the class, the learnings that we're going to give in the class. So when we are focused, the learning will remain focused, and there are so many things that can be used and materials that can be given, facilities can be used in the universities where the teaching definitely will improve. And the basic objective of any educational institution is, when he hears that highlighted in the newspapers or has become has come up with something new, that's where we feel very happy, and we have this feeling of, what do you say, that it's not the student who has remembered you, but you take, this is the learning, not in, I won't say it's learning, but this is the feeling that you get, that probably you have taught them in the right direction. This, can you please tell the slide? All right. So outcome-based as assessment, teaching, learning. Now this involves a complete restructuring of curriculum assessment and reporting practices. Now this, when we are talking about restructuring, when we are talking about the curriculum assessments, we need to restructure in terms of, is the program or is the course or is my outcome multidisciplinary in nature? Can I include all aspects of discipline which is possible in that particular course, in that particular program? Is the assessment based on some kind of a professional skill that we are intending? Is what kind of even the curriculum would be requiring some kind of graded accreditations? Have we standardized our curriculum? Have we standardized our quality systems? Are we adhering to whatever norms is there at the national level and the international level? So when we adhere to those norms, automatically it trickles down to the assessment aspect. The curriculum is being designed, restructuring of curriculum has taken place, parameters like multidisciplinary, professional aspects have been introduced, internationalization in that particular course is also to be introduced into the curriculum. And when you're assessing, you will keep all those things in mind. And what we have to aim is not at the lower level learning or the mastery at the lower level, but mastery has to come at the higher order learning. And the higher order learning is what? It comes in things like when the student is able to apply his learning, when the student is able to analyze what the problem is, and the student is able to give a solution, an innovative solution. And we are not aiming for repeating the solution that happened earlier, but coming out with a newer solution. May not be drastically new, but it can be a certain elements or applications or the implementation of that particular solution may differ. That is the creativity we are looking for. The innovation, the manner in which the students are they are learning and they're gaining their mastery, they're creating, they're analyzing, they are able to evaluate where they went wrong, and they are able to make those changes. That's where those are the higher order. And my assessments, whichever assessment parameters I am planning for my course, that has to be catering to these elements, not the lower, not remembering and understanding. हो गया बहुत. अब करना है, क्या student apply कर सकता है, क्या student analyze कर सकता है, क्या student evaluate कर सकता है, और क्या students create कर सकते हैं. ये focus है. That these are the higher order learning, and this is where the mastery has to be created. By using these technologies, you can pass on the basic learnings as online mode, and only bring the student at platform where discussion is taking place. You are getting variety of ideas, and the student is able to bring these variety of ideas together and come up with a solution. Of course, this is a challenge for us also, but if the learning is not only at the student level, it's also at the faculty level. Because there's certain things which the students come up and we had never thought of. That gives us that, okay, this can also be a part of the application. And the focus would not be on just accumulating the course credits. For doing a particular program, say I have to do 110 credits. 3 साल का क्रेडिट है, 110 क्रेडिट्स हमें करने हैं. हर साल में 26-30 ऐसे करके क्रेडिट्स हैं. तो डिग्री तब मिलेगी जब मेरे सारे 110 क्रेडिट्स पूरे होंगे. तो फोकस क्रेडिट्स पे नहीं है, फोकस है क्या डेमोन्स्ट्रेट कर रहा है उस प्रोग्राम को करने के बाद. कैन यू प्लीज चेंज द slide please. All right, okay, so outcome based education, again just remember these 5 words when you are making your assessments: increasing knowledge, developing skills. Have you been able to inculcate the positive attitude of the students? Have the students got the right values? Have the students got the right ethics to survive? And the last one is, are they able to judge? Are they able to make the right decisions? So when you're getting a case study as one of the assessments, then this is what we are judging. Did he have the knowledge? Could he apply that content? Did he execute those skills in the right manner while he was making the presentation or when he was talking about that particular case? Was the approach positive? Did he show all sets of values and ethics? And was he able to make a decision? The question here is not whether the decision is right or wrong. The question is whether the student was able to judge, was proactive, he had certain logical steps in place, and then he came to a conclusion. That conclusion was the decision that he made, and then he provided a solution to the problem. And finally, when he implements it, that's the decision. Can you change the slide, please? So how much time do I have left?
Ma'am, you can continue. You have, I guess, 15 minutes left. Yes.
Okay, so that means I need to rush up. Huh? All right. So approach kya keh rahi? What is the outcome-based education approach talking about? First thing, in your course, whichever course you're doing, you see this outcome-based is not only on the course level. It's at the program level, it is at the course level, it is at the student level as well. So we need to first identify hum kya outcomes desire kar rahe hain. What are the outcomes that I'm deciding? So after I've completed this course, the student should be able to do this. Once I have defined the outcomes in place, I've kept them in place. The next would be, how will the assessments be done? And how will I measure whether the student has been able to achieve those outcomes? So you have to create a measuring scale. And the third would be, decide on strategies and methodology to achieve these. So how will you achieve these outcomes? What would be your strategy? How would you go in the class? What is kind of methodology that you're going to adopt? Now that is different to different faculty, different to different courses. So these 3 things, helps you to understand how you are going to assess in your particular course. Can you change the slide, please? All right. So how do we design outcomes? So we have these, the institutional level broad-based goals. The institution has goals, the university has goals, the colleges have goals. So there will be some broad-based goals, there will be some vision, there will be some mission, and from that we derive our the spelling mistake, please overlook that, program level outcomes. If you're offering a course in MBA, we're offering a course in BBA, a BCom, a engineering. So at that program, what are the outcomes that you're intending, which will lead to the course level outcomes? That means in that particular program, number of semesters that are going to be introduced. And in each semester, what are the courses will be introduced to achieve that particular program's outcome? And third is the student level outcome. At the student level, what is the improvement that I'm going to look for? What is the outcomes that I'm intending? So when the outcomes are happening, this is how it flows down, it trickles down from the university to the institution, from the institution to the program, then to the course, and then to the student. And at each level, we as faculties are the people who are the key persons to make these outcomes, to design these outcomes. Next slide, please. So we come to the assessment. We can skip this slide. We can move to the next. Of course, this assessment is a Latin word which means sit, and the objective is we need to sit with whom? With the students, and not with the students. With the student means I have to come down to the level of the student to make him understand what it is happening to him, and also to make him improve, make him grow in the manner in which I want him to grow. The teacher wants him to grow, or there is a requirement of the program to grow. So assessment can focus on the individual learner, the learning community, the institution, or the education. Wherever you are doing the assessment, are you doing it at program, course, wherever, your focus would be what would you like your students to demonstrate, not what students should do, what students should demonstrate. Next slide, please. Now, the features of assessment. So you have the regular formative and competency-based assessments. You have higher order skill analysis that we are doing in this assessment. We are promoting learning and development of students and focuses on assessment for learning. Now, this is a basic understanding of the features that the assessment has. Next slide, please. This diagram is very, very important. Before the learning begins, there is an assessment of what has to be given to the students. What will be the requirements of learning? Say if a student wants to do a course on, let us say, performance management. Now, prior to this, before he takes up a course on performance management, is there any requirement for him to have certain information before he jumps into this course? That's diagnostic. Should he have an understanding about how HR works, human resource management takes place? So because performance appraisal or performance management is a sub-part of the HR domain. So he must have an understanding of what HR domain, and then he can explore and move into performance management. So diagnostic would be what is that medicine which needs to be given to the student so that he will get the outcomes. That's that. And then we have learning assessments. Can we go back to the previous slide? Learning assessments, there are two learning assessments or evaluation, whatever you want to call it, formative and summative. Formative is continuous. जब हम use करते हैं word continuous, that is we are forming every step, continuous process. This year the program structure was like this, the program outcome was like this, next year the program outcomes will change, the course outcome will change, because there was a feedback from one of the students who said that if we had add this, the course will be more valuable, or the course will be more enriched. So that is formative. Every time we are changing our courses, we are changing our program. And summative is he meeting the requirement, the necessary requirements to complete that program? Say the grades, the examination, the passing marks, the internal and external assessment, those elements. Please change the slide. Okay, these are the learnings. We have talked about this a lot. skills, interest, attitude, motivation, confidence, consciousness, all this has to be, created. Another thing is, very good thing about this assessment continuous process is you are able to identify the slower students. I would not like to call them weaker, because a student who is weak in one subject, one area, may be very good in another area. So we can't undermine this fact. He may be a slow learner in a particular subject because there was no, because he doesn't like that subject, or there's no interest to study, or maybe he doesn't have the logical movement from moving from the basic to the higher order learning. So that concept has been mixed up somewhere. For example, I can say I was a terrible student in maths. I could never understand, except algebra was something which I really related to. Geometry was something I couldn't understand, and arithmetic was out of my, the simple interest and all these things I couldn't calculate, because probably my interest was not in that area. But at certain other stage in my life, when I came to know there was a situation in which I was put and I was supposed to do certain calculations, I went back to my books and I did that. I had a basic understanding. I did it and I came out with a result. Now that is the outcome. 10वीं में पढ़ा था मैथ्स, उसके बाद पढ़ा ही नहीं कभी, लेकिन कुछ कॉन्सेप्ट साथ में रहे हैं which helped me to solve the solution. This is where we are talking about, identifying why the student is not performing the way you want. And therefore, that's where mentoring comes into, counseling comes into. You need to find out areas. ये assessment के हमारे parameter. Unless we assess, unless we do give them work, unless we give them certain, we get a feedback from them, we will not be able to assess where the slow learners are. And then once we know what are the areas in which we need to work, there we can focus with that particular student. Please change the slide. So formative क्यों होता है? Because to monitor students for learning, provide ongoing feedback, and to improve students' learning. Whereas summative is a student learning at the end of the instructional unit by comparing it against some standard of benchmark. So once he's completed first year of engineering, he moves to the second year only when he gets certain credits, or only when he gets certain percentage of marks which has been set up at the beginning of the program. Next, please. I want to quickly show you how. Now this is a table where the formative evaluation. See, we can't go just with formative or just with summative. We are using both the kind of assessment aspects. So formative is continuous. And today the UGC demands that your internal and external assessment should be 50-50. So up till now we've been having this 30-70 contribution, but 50% external hai, to 50% internal hai. That means they are giving us more and more right to have a realistic assessment, where we see drastic changes in the students, in the skills, in the life skills that they have developed. So you can, refer to this, and you can, identify what information has to be given, when this is to be given, and what context it has to be given in. Next slide, please. Now, summative kya karta hai? Summative is only seeing, at the program level, whether the student has been able to achieve those things or not. So you can see the arrows are towards the it's a vertical arrow. So first year he starts with low learning, and then in the first year, by the end of the first year, he reaches certain level of learning. Same second, he starts with a low learning, and he moves on to the second year and so on. But what happens in the formative is slightly different. Can you change the slide, please? This is it. See, there is a continuous process. So first year when the student came, the learning was little lesser. But when he moves to the second, he's carrying the first year's learning to the second year, and from the second year, first year and second year learning, he carries it to the third year, first, second, third year learning, he carries to the fourth year. Now, यहाँ पर हम comprehensive assessment करते हैं when the student moves up. So we can do it every year also. If we want to really see that what is the comprehensive learning, then we do comprehensive exams every year, semester nahi, every year. Was what we aimed, was it achieved or not? Thank you. Next slide, please. Of course, you have seen this. You have seen this Bloom's taxonomy. I'm sorry for the phone calls because we are in the office. Of course, you've seen this. Now, the higher orders are what I was talking about earlier. So when you are assessing also, when you're making this formative evaluation, the continuous evaluation, you shall be focusing from applying to create. Keep this in mind. When you are assessing students, are you using these verbs in your assessment or not? And next slide, please. Assessment, of course, at program, at course, at student level. Now, these are the tools we use. There are certain direct tools and there are certain indirect tools. Direct tools are, of course, the end term examination that we cannot do. The midterm examinations that we will use, the quizzes that we give, that we will use, they are direct tools. But apart from these direct tools, when we are actually seeing that whether my program level outcomes have been achieved or not, we use this tool called comprehensive exam, and we use this tool called rubrics. Now, rubrics are nothing but statements. You know, say let us what we do is we set up certain criteria. What are the criteria that we are going to assess the students on? Based on that criteria, what will indicate whether this criteria was met or not met? So we will have, to that particular criteria, we will have certain indicators. And these indicators will come in the form of statements. And each statement is done, is actually measured on a scale. Now you can have a 5-point scale, 4-point scale, whatever is required, that is measured on a scale. So rubrics are, I'll show you a picture of the rubrics. So you make the rubrics, and these are not the part of the degree requirement. Remember this, comprehensive exam and rubrics will not show in the mark sheets. It will not show in the degree. What will show in the mark sheets will be the end term examination or the internal and the external examination. But what is actually valuable to the student is when he exhibits his learning in the form of comprehensive exam, the institution feels proud. When the rubrics that you have designed, the students fare well in those rubrics, the institution feels happy and good that whatever they had intended, they have been able to achieve. Then there are certain indirect tools, where, because direct tools are you're using for your students, but indirect tool comes in where the students are passing out, or the students who already passed out, our alumni, or our industries. When they get a feedback, I don't know whether I have made this statement or not, feedbacks are the central of all outcomes. So never ignore the feedbacks. And these are the ways in which we are getting the feedback. Exit survey, when the student is leaving the campus, he's completed his course, you conduct an exit survey. Whether the student felt good or not, whether the student was able to acquire that information, whether he was good at making presentations, whether he acquired the skill of communications, can he openly go and do a public speaking, whatever is relevant to that particular program will come in the form of these questions, and the students reply in a yes or a no. So the more the students say yes, the more it is indicated that your outcomes have been met. Same applies with alumni. It's just not one level of learning. Same applies with the alumni. When the alumni gives you feedback, he's no more a part of your system. He gives a feedback. That feedback becomes relevant for me to make changes, whether in my course or whether in my program. And definitely summer internships and the projects that the students do and the subject experts that we call for our courses, they are a very, very relevant feedback systems, because they tell you or they give you an insight that how we are going to prepare our students so that they can be easily taken up by the industry, and they're more useful to the industry. So we have certain direct tools and we have certain indirect tools. Now, as institutions, we have to decide what is the weightage we are going to give to the direct tools and to the indirect tools. Definitely direct tools weightages are more and indirect tools weightages is a little lesser, but they do have a weightage. And when NAAC accreditation takes place, then they identify what is the alumni survey that has happened, whether you have incorporated those changes in the courses or not. Next, please. All right. You see, this is how your evaluation rubrics looks like. It's a criterion-based instrument, specific expectations or evaluations criteria for assignment or task, which they are divided into various components. Then there is a rating scale or any other mechanisms that you would like to use. Maybe you're using a scale like good, excellent, poor, and so on. So any scale. Sometimes you use a scale, a Likert scale, which is 1.25 scale, whatever. That scale has to be developed. So if a statement says on an examination rubrics, if I am a faculty and I'm assessing a student, there's an interview going on, then there will be a statement, was the student able to understand the problem? Now you're going to rate the student on a 5-point scale. So if he was able to understand and correctly give the understanding and was also able to give the solution, you give him 1, that's the highest, or maybe 5 at the highest, whichever rating. If he is not, if he's moderate, then you keep him somewhere in 3. And if he could not completely give, you give him a low score. That's how that's what is rubrics. You use these parameters. And this is used as a scoring tool to evaluate students' performance on that assignment or task. And this you can do whether you're taking vivas or the kind of assignments that the students is giving you. You can give a statement. There was an accreditation body from US which had come, and the first question is that they asked us was that when the student returns the project or he submits a project, how much time do you take to return it back and give a feedback to the student? Now, this is what comes in the form of rubrics. आपने जो लिखा है कि this assignment has this weaknesses. Can you improve, improvise, and get it back to me? There, where you are giving a feedback to the student is learning, and when the student learns and makes those changes, there is an understanding that takes place, which will reflect in whatever and wherever he is exposing himself to. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide is not coming up. All right, yeah. So what we have done, we have picked up certain criteria on my left side: identification of issues, analysis and evaluation, and action plan. And we have, put in certain statements. So we put on a 5-point scale. So if they are beginners, if their understanding is only at the basic level, or they have been able to completely achieve this particular criteria, we will give them a higher mark. So we grade these statements into rating scales. So if again, each statement is talking about if he's a beginner, then he does not recognize the facts and figures. If he is well versed, he will be very accurate, he'll give you the exact information. And if he is average, then he will demonstrate some skills, but then they will not be too relevant or maybe not very current. There is a lot of improvement which is required. So what is the takeaway is that we are able to understand that whenever you took a class or you gave an assignment, the number of students who were excelling, the number of students who still need to improve, and number of students where more work needs to be done, is you can categorize. And then when you have categorized these categories, then you can also see in the next assignment whether those who were in the beginning category, could they move up to the competent category, and could the competent category move up to accomplished category. So this is how we decide. Next slide, please. Mappings we do, these are the terms. You can see the terms on the top. These are the higher level learnings, and the mapping is done. So assessment 1, assignments, project, case studies, Viva was, simulations, whatever you are giving in your course, you can concentrate on these terms as concepts, analyze, integrate, and apply. Next slide, please. And this is what we do at Amity University. We have a exit survey, and each exit survey is based on each program level learnings. So a particular program will have 10 to 12 objectives that needs to be fulfilled. Outcomes, rather, I should not use the word objectives, but outcomes that need to be fulfilled. And there are a number of statements that the student is required to give. So there will be about 20, 25 statements, and each of these statements will cater to each of these PLOs. And if the student is saying yes, or the student is saying, because these are close-ended. For us, it is a close-ended. So either he says yes or he says no. So if he says yes, and more students say yes, our outcomes seem to be fulfilled. Next slide, please. So again, this is just how the culture of assessment can be developed. So we have to continuously track the learning of the students. Then exams, whatever assessments that you are giving has to be a little flexible, and it should be skill-based. जो भी assessment आपका है skill-based करना है. Then assessment will focus on core concepts, higher orders, and foundational skills, and of course use of technology and artificial intelligence. Now this is going to be the next generation where artificial intelligence will take place, or will be in way facilitating, not replace. I'm not saying replace faculty, but will be facilitating. So whenever we are designing outcomes, these things have to be kept into mind. Next slide, please. All right. So, these are again the board of assessment. These are at program levels which are being designed. And next slide, please. Okay, this you can already see. So how do we use these assessments? We use these assessments in getting the feedback for the courses that we are teaching, what we can add. We keep these data because these data become a requirement for your curriculum designing, and of course a requirement of the accreditation bodies. Then we enrich the programs, and then we have the inputs from the external abilities. We make the corrections. So we add on, we subtract irrelevant things, move out of my curriculum, new things come in, and then we define what is going to be the assessment, what is going to be, in case we are taking a Viva, would we be involving the external counterparts, because the external counterparts would give you a realistic feedback of what the student has done. And then we test and retest. This is how we keep moving. This is how it becomes a continuous process. So आज feedback ले लिया और अगली बार feedback नहीं लेंगे, ऐसा नहीं होता है. हर बार feedback लेना पड़ता है. Next slide, please. Thank you. Just one small thing before I move on. 5 years back, when Amity University, went in for foreign accreditations, we had the accreditations from Western Associations of Schools and Colleges. We have accreditations from IACP, International Colleges for Business Studies. We have accreditations, of course, from NAC and all. The first accreditations that we went in was for IACB, and the requirement for IACB was outcome based. Everything there had to be a report which had to be created. Now, up till now, we didn't know what was outcome. This report was there. We had to create a document. The Noida office helped us in making those rubrics. That's the first time I heard something called rubrics. For assessing. Now, where do we use these rubrics? We use rubrics in this major projects or dissertations which the student do in business communication abilities, the kind of behavioral skills that they show. Of course, we have an element of foreign languages. So the student takes a foreign language. So we use rubrics. Then community engagement, how the student is engaged in the community and what has been his learning is again a parameter of assessment. And then entrepreneurship skills. So can they exhibit entrepreneurship skills? Have they learned? Do they know how to make a business plan? All this becomes again an assessment. So we do an assessment. Now, when this report was in front of us, we हाथ पैर मारते हैं ना 10 टके हाथ पैर मार के सीखा बनाया. And when the committee came to assess, there was one gentleman, Mr. Byra Reddy, who helped us understand why this outcome is required. And he told us that each rubrics had to be then, course level had to be then brought down to the program level, and the program level would be then, combined with the university level. That's how it moves, from bottom to up and, top to bottom. So, and then it comes in the form of public disclosure for that particular university. It's a public disclosure document that the university or the institution is aiming at outcome and not output. Output is just a measure. Degree मिल गई, बच्चा पास हो गया, 100 बच्चे आए थे, 90 बच्चे पास हो गए. That's an output. But जो 90 बच्चे गए थे, उन 90 बच्चों में से कितने बच्चे जहां भी हैं कितना एक्सेल कर रहे हैं, दैट्स एन आउट. और वो 10 बच्चे जो नहीं पास कर रहे थे, उनको आपने कैसे हेल्प किया? How did you ensure that they got those degrees, they met their required formalities, and then they are now excelling? See, another point is that in our curriculum, what we have studied, I think even most of you are much younger to me, हमने पढ़ा, हमारा शौक sports रहा, and the boys would relate to it, but our parents never allowed. क्योंकि हमारे एजुकेशन सिस्टम में वो सिस्टम ही नहीं था कि स्पोर्ट्स को एक सब्जेक्ट की तरह हम ट्रीट करें, था ही नहीं. एक फिजिकल एजुकेशन की क्लास होती थी, वो भी क्योंकि वो एक मैंडेटरी प्रोविजन था, इसलिए किया जाता था. सो all these sports people, let us leave apart, some very well known people who've done very well in their education, engineers and so on, but some of them have just left the sport because it was so difficult for them to manage the kind of fame that they were getting in the sports, but when they came back to their institution, वो zero हो जाते थे. वो tolerance नहीं था. But now this education system is going to tolerate those things because where we are talking about multidiscipline. So sports may enter as one of the subjects. टाइम नहीं होता था कि वही नेशनल प्लेयर है, इंटरनेशनल प्लेयर है, but the system could not allow us to give them leaves. So at our levels we managed, but the system did not give any relief. So outcome based education holistic development पे बात कर रहा है, सिर्फ एक सब्जेक्ट ओरिएंटेड पे नहीं बात कर रहा, एक डिग्री ओरिएंटेड नहीं बात कर रहा. As an individual, what is he doing when he moves out from my campus? What is he doing in life? And 10 years and 20 years down the line, when you meet him and you see him as a successful person, that's the outcome. I remember my grandfather used to tell me, when I move on the street and very good looking, or rather I should use this word, very good personality stops me on the road and bends down to touch my feet is what gives me the happiness. This is the outcome. Thank you so much for giving me a patient learning. And if any questions, I'm open to the questions.
Ma'am, it was a very informative and a wonderful session. It was really great to have you. Ma'am, we have, due to shortage of time, I'm just going to take one question. There is a question from Dr. Yashpa. She has asked that how is the development of assessment through technology is going to be helpful for the faculties in the academic life?
By use of technology or for technology?
Assessment, I mean by the use of technology.
By the use of technology. You see, assessment, when we have these portals, when we have these, intranets and the facilities in Amity, we have Amazon, and the student gets all real information from the Amazon, from the classes that he has, from the course curriculum, from the syllabus, from the examination, days of examination, date of commencement, last date of teaching, holidays, every information is there in the on our portal, that is Amazon. And even when we are doing the assessment on MS Team, whichever technology media that you are using, those medias are very well versed with the assessment parameter. If you're using quizzes in assessment, the quiz is there. You just need to put in your questions and you put in the details when you would like the quiz to open up, when you would like the quiz to close down, and how many attempts can a student do? Would you want it to be a recurring till the student gets the full marks, or would you like it to be a one-time assessment? Your feedback on the on that particular quiz, because then it opens up in your page, and you can see at what time did the student start the test and what time did he finish. अगर आपने 30 मिनट का दिया है, कुछ बच्चे 15 मिनट में ही कर लेते हैं, और 30 मिनट पूरा टाइम देते हैं. It means that he's using some other methods to complete the test. So you have a understanding by seeing these assessments. Then there are so many, Mentimeter is something which you can use for designing your assessments, where you are giving a platform to the students. And in MS Team we have rooms. You can create rooms for the particular class, and you can give one case study to one particular room. And you may have 5-10 rooms, and each room has 8 to 10 students. And as a faculty, you can move from one room to the other, and you can assess what is the involvement of each 8 students in that particular case. क्योंकि 40 बच्चों को देखना और 8 को देखने में फर्क है. 8 students you can see who is getting involved, who is actually delivering certain solutions, who is coming out with an understanding of the problems, who is taking the leadership positions. ये assess करते हैं. So technology makes it much easier. Putting it on a pen is a little difficult for us now. Going back, लंबी sheets लाके उस पे ticking करना मुश्किल हो जाता है. But technology makes it very easy. Most of the work it does. We just have to open the page and say, oh, right. Whatever I just showed you as Amity, जब हम report लिखते हैं तो हमको दिख जाता है PLO wise how many students were able to achieve. And so when we write the reports, whether the assessment have been achieved, ये NAAC की भी requirement है. In case your institution is going for NAAC, you have to have an outcome assessment. First you have a plan, then you implement it, and then you write the report. So outcome assessment में भी आपको बताना होगा कि whether the PLOs have been met, program level outcomes have been met, course level outcomes have been met, feedbacks दिखाने होंगे. You have provisions for CR meetings. ये सब technology में आप कर सकते हैं. Everything can be done. It's just that you need to be more hands-on. You need to take help of your own peers, who are well versed in technology, and they can give you newer ways to do the assessment. I'm a little, skeptical of this technology, but if you had met me 20 years back, I was a person who would never wanted to use a computer. I was so scared that I would press a button and everything would go. And today the system has made me use technology, take classes online. Pandemic नहीं होता तो हम classes online कभी लेते नहीं, सोचते ही नहीं. Flip class अभी नहीं आया, Flip class बहुत दिनों से आया हुआ है, use ही नहीं किया हमने. But this brought us making e-tutorials. Yes, something I have left out. E-tutorials. We made our own tutorials, our own videos, and we posted it on our LMS. LMS is another portal where you can do the assessment. सब कुछ उसमें बहुत, it's very friendly. सब कुछ है, आपको होम असाइनमेंट देना है, आपको क्विजेस देने हैं, आपको मिड टर्म देना है, सब कुछ उसमें. एंड असेसमेंट आल्सो बिकम्स इजी. So just a little exploring and taking help from our peers will help you do the assessment.
Thank you, ma'am, for the answer. It was, as I said, it is really great to hear from you because it was so informative and we all are taking a lot from you. Thank you for letting us know, because I guess that is the most toughest part. With pandemic, we all have adjusted that how to teach online, but we are still striving that how we need to assess the students. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. And sometimes our children, they will tell you, आपको इतना नहीं पता. कोई बात नहीं, सुन लीजिए, but they teach you certain things. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I hope whatever was discussed here was a little informative. Anytime you want to connect, you can always. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being there. Thank you, everyone. Jai.